Hello, 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 my beautiful, beautiful friends from the internet. I hope every single one of you is doing very well on this fine Tuesday evening, and I hope that everybody has something to look forward to be doing this weekend. I think in most places in the world, most COVID restrictions are getting lifted or in the process of being lifted or have already lifted. So make sure you get out there this week and do something you enjoy. Do something that brings a little bit of excitement and happiness and spontaneity in your life. Do something that is, maybe a little bit outside of your comfort zone, or maybe not outside of your comfort zone, but just something you really like to do. Go for a hike, go for a walk, play some sport of yours that you may enjoy, play some video games with some friends, or just do something. It's great, man. It's springtime, the weather's changing, and it's beautiful outside, and I love this time of year. It's very refreshing. It reminds me of new opportunities and new experiences that are yet to be had. So I'm very, very excited for this time of the year. So welcome everybody to the Reddit Asks Us podcast. I am your host, Luke Dick. Now, before we head into the podcast, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, make sure to comment, and also subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever else you get your podcasts, maybe Pandora, make sure to leave us a rating, and also please leave us a review. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Reddit Asks Us podcast. Where I'm starting to post some new clips. I had an old sort of platform for posting clips. I'm trying to do something new that's more formatted to the new format of the show, because I'm doing these solo episodes. I've been doing them for a while now, and they just kind of have a totally different format to what the show used to be like. So I'm starting to post new clips on there. It'll get more consistent over the next little while, but I would definitely check it out because it is there's some fun little anecdotes and fun little stories you can hear on there for the low price of free. I guess the one cost is you might have to listen to my voice. Ooh. But I don't know if that's like a cost or something. But I don't know. I listen to my voice a lot, so sometimes it can be very tiring when editing and whatnot. But anyways, welcome to the show, everybody. So this week's episode is, what was a time that you, and this comes from the main Askreddit page, what was a time that you had a gut feeling about something, ignored it, then end up being right about it in the end? Now, I want to preface this and say some of these stories are pretty wild, and some of them I had to omit quite a few of the stories because some of them were a little bit depressing, and I like to try to keep things light on the show. I try to read some interesting stories and read something that maybe will make you smile, or it doesn't always have to make you smile. It's different stuff, diverse sort of content, but I didn't want it to be too depressing or anything like that. But there were definitely some depressing ones in here. But it is very important, my friends, to listen to your gut feeling, because your gut often is more right than you might think it will be. But anyways, let's get into it right now. So this first one comes from Loves to Read 1983. When I was a teenager, I was riding in the car with some friends. The driver was speeding a little and acting like an idiot in general. We stopped so he could get out and switch a CD. This was in the 90s. I had a bad feeling that he was going to eventually wreck the car and someone would die or get badly hurt. I almost got out of the car. I didn't, though. We did end up wrecking less than 20 minutes later. I came close to severing an artery in my neck when we crashed. Everyone else's injuries were fairly minor, including the driver. His reckless actions caused the accident. I wish I would have trusted my gut instinct. Absolutely. This is wild. I am very cautious about the people who I drive with. You know what I mean? Like, oh man, I have a friend whose ex-girlfriend, we would drive around and she failed her driver's test. Oh my God. She must have failed her driver's test 10 times. I'm not even joking. Like literally, it was close to that 10 times area. And she was such a herky-jerky driver. She would just I don't know how to describe it, but you know what I mean. If you've ever driven with anybody like this, they just don't pay attention to the road. They're constantly always on their phone, or they're looking at themselves in the mirror or something. And every time they turn or change lanes or something, they yank the wheel. Everything is super herky jerky. You know what I'm trying to say? It's just everything is aggressive and sudden. All the movements. And man, I only probably drove with her like maybe 2 times or something like that, because I was not having it, dude. I'm not trying to drive with people like that, especially when you're in the back seat. Like when you're back like that kind of driving makes you sick, man. And then you literally physically feel uncomfortable. Like I try my best to have a policy. If I don't like driving with somebody, I don't like how somebody's driving, I will, if I'm, you know, of sound mind and body, I will offer to drive and be like, I can't do this, or I'll just be like, you need to drop me off. Like seriously, I cannot take this. This just is horrible. And I mean, it sucks that you guys had to get into a car accident, but I'm glad everybody was okay. We have a reply here from white_lily_7. Make it a habit. When you feel unsafe with a driver, get off at that next possible chance. Even ask them to stop and get off wherever you are. Get on a bus, call a taxi, call an Uber. Uber is something that's, he was talking about how this was in the 90s. Uber is something that people should definitely make use of. Uber is, man, it might be like expensive. It might be like $30, but man, that $30 could mean your life, man. Yeah, get on the bus, call a taxi, call an Uber, a friend, family, whatever. Never stay in a car you feel unsafe in. There are always other chances to get back home, to work, or wherever you are headed. It may take longer or be more expensive, maybe if the driver feels butthurt about it. Yeah, and this is the thing, man. If you feel unsafe, there is no reason for you to have to like justify to people why you are feeling unsafe. Bro, I don't like how you're driving. Like, I feel sick when you are driving this vehicle. I don't want to be here, therefore I'm gone. That's okay. If that's your answer for that, for somebody like trying to accuse you, like, oh, get in the car, all this stuff, like, no, don't listen to him. Also, never, my friends, ever get into a car with somebody who is intoxicated. Like, especially on any sort of like alcohol or debilitating drugs and stuff like that. Like, it's just, I know so many people like throughout high school and throughout the years who have just had just the worst experiences with that sort of thing. And it's just, yes, trust your gut instinct, my friends. Trust that gut instinct. All right, moving on. This next one comes from, I talked about this for like 6 minutes. My bad, everybody. So this next one comes from Lomac92. I had a feeling one of my immediate family members was going to die. My parents rented a beach house for their 33rd anniversary in October 2021, and since I lived close by, I met them there for a mini family vacation. The last night of the trip, all of us were hanging out in the living room, watching TV after eating dinner, and I got this overwhelming sense that this would be the last time in my life my life would ever be truly perfect. It was my favorite place, staying at my favorite beach house that my parents had been renting since I was 4. Both parents were healthy and sitting on the couch beside me. Both of the dogs were snuggled up next to my side. The feeling was so strong that even I took out my phone and took a video panning the room because I felt like this moment would be a moment I never wanted to forget. The next day, I hugged my parents goodbye after packing the car and told them how much I loved them and that I would see them when I would be home for the holidays. My mom passed away instantly the morning of December 18th from what they believe was a brain aneurysm. She was completely healthy before with no prior conditions and had no symptoms before it happened to alert her that anything was wrong. I had gone to bed the next night, the night prior, and when I woke up I had 2 texted messages. A good night text from my mom sent after I had fallen asleep at 10:04 telling me how much she loved me, and another from my dad at 7 a.m. saying, "Call me now, very important." And then he says that there's a little bit of a break. Half of me died that day with her. Well, I'm very sorry that happened to your mother, but the bright side is that you were able to create a very positive memory out of something like that. And this is the tough thing, guys. Like, everybody dies, and we can never control when people die. It's just you can literally get hit by a bus. You could get struck by lightning. Like, it is human life and life in general is so unbelievably fragile. But the thing is it's so easy for us to hold on to life, right? Because this is what we know. This is our existence. It's so easy to want to sustain something that we know is inherently unsustainable, right? And you get a lot of stories and hearing people say like, "Oh, I wish I would have said this to my loved one before they passed away," or "I wish would have this or that would have happened." But at the end of the day, you know, it's more about the feelings you have for that person and the memories that you've created, and that is truly the essence of life. The essence of life is carried within those moments, and it's better if we don't attach ourselves to something that is inherently impermanent. Like life does not last, right? So if we attach ourselves to the fact that life is last, and this is why I don't really like the whole idea of like, fountain of youth, trying to live forever, like a pill, take this pill and you'll live for eternity. It's just, that's not the essence of human life. That's not the essence of what we are, inherently born here to live and do and to experience. Yes, it is very sad when a loved one passes away, but that their death doesn't define who they are or who you are. Their death is only a progression. It is a symbolization of the end of a particular period or era or chapter in your life. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It just means it's a thing. It's something that we go through. We all have to go through it. Nobody lives forever. And we have to make sure that we don't accept too much responsibility for, other people passing away, because unless you like are responsible for it. But when people just pass away, make sure you just try your best to have positive interactions with people and the people that you meet in your life, because that's what really matters. And life is inherently going to end. So embrace it. Embrace the fact that life will end. And, what does that mean? It means connecting with people, being grateful, enjoying the time that you do spend with each other. I'm glad you took that video, because now you have something that will remind you of that time. You have the memory. It's a little bit more, it's not as sad as you might think. It really isn't. Next one comes from Not Really Lucy. My husband has a lot of health problems. Insomnia is a regular occurrence. One night he couldn't sleep. He couldn't get comfortable, had nausea, he had pain. These were uncommon symptoms for him, but they seemed a little worse than usual. I knew that heart attack symptoms can be subtle and are often mistaken for heartburn or stomach upset. I told him this and suggested we go to the hospital to play it safe. He said no. Months later, he had some testing done, and we learned that he had a silent heart attack. They couldn't give us a date, but the time frame matched up with the night that he couldn't sleep. I should have put my foot down and made him go to the hospital. If you're reading this, learn the symptoms of a heart attack and a stroke, and anytime you're concerned about the possibility of a heart attack or stroke, get it checked out by a healthcare professional. So we have a reply here from More Than Lemons. When I was in the 4th grade, my dad, who was in his 30s, was mowing the lawn one summer day. He was feeling terrible with the symptoms you had described. He wanted to ignore the pain and discomfort though, because damn it, he needed to finish the lawn. My siblings and I were roller skating outside. Then suddenly the spark plug flew out of my dad's lawnmower, forcing him to stop. He went inside and told my mom the strangest thing just happened to his mower, but he wasn't feeling well and needed to go lie down. My mom said to him, "You're gray," which is strange because he was outside sweating. He had just, like you'd expect somebody maybe to be like red. He had just gotten a brochure in the mail about symptoms for a heart attack, or she had just gotten a brochure in the mail. She read them off to my dad, and he answered yes to all of them. Mom said, "You could be having a heart attack." Dad, "Nah, I'm just having heartburn from that burrito earlier and I'm exhausted. I'm just gonna go take a nap." Mom insisted, "I'm calling an ambulance." No, don't do that. I don't need an ambulance." Mom put her foot down. "Then get in the car. We're going to the ER now." My mom told us outside to hurry and get in the car. Dad needed to go to the hospital. I rode backseat in my roller skates, and in the waiting room, I wandered around in socks. My dad lived, and tonight we watched a movie together and laughed a lot. He's a great grandpa. He's 64, and I'm now at the age he was when he had his heart attack at 36. I'm so grateful my mom didn't ignore the signs. My dad wonders if an angel made the spark plug fly out, but I know that the angel was my mom. In fact, her name is Angela. Oh, that's awesome. And yeah, like I've heard that symptoms of heart attacks can go, like you can have like a silent heart attack. Like they can be totally unnoticed or unnoticeable. Like that to me, and also maybe this is just a different generation, but I feel like there's this thing with men that men do not want to admit that they're like in pain. It's like a sign of weakness or something. Like it's just they don't want to admit that they're uncomfortable, they're because it shows this sort of weakness, right? Like that it's that they're incapable or incompetent. Like for example, like you want to finish the cutting the lawn, and I think it's a toxic male trait that's embedded in our culture. Of course, I don't think that's inborn into males. I definitely think that that's perpetuated down through culture. But it's interesting because, man, like if you don't listen to that gut feeling, it could literally mean your life. Like save your pride for another time, okay? Save your pride for a situation that matters less than mowing the lawn. You know what I'm saying? Or matters more than mowing the lawn. Like it is. I think as a progressive society, it's important that we need to tell men. I think this is getting better too. That pain and all the and death and crying and all this. This is not male or female traits. This is human stuff. All right. This is just no matter who you are. This is a human thing, and it's important for humans to go through this, man. I feel like a lot of guys these days carry around so much just stress and anger and frustration because they are holding on to these feelings of pain that they haven't dealt with. And it's like, well, if you actually deal with your emotions and deal with your pain and talk about it and cry and be emotionally vulnerable, you will be in a much better place in your life, and you can have much more positive experiences, and be able to maybe focus on the areas of your life that matter more than holding on to that anxiety and that stress and stuff. So it's very important. Like I don't care if you're a man, woman, if you're non-binary, whatever. I literally do not care. It is important that we talk about things and we admit that when we're feeling down and out, we need to listen to those feelings. It can literally mean your life. So it is very important, my friends, to listen to your own body, listen to yourself, make sure you trust that gut feeling, really do, because man, it can save your life. It really can. Next one comes from Elephant. Wait, what? Elephants. Okay, hold up. This next one comes from Elephant Shit Soup. Okay, already, whatever. The first time I met the teacher my autistic daughter was going to have in elementary school. We were chatting about my daughter, and she went over and sat in a rocking chair and in the classroom, and the teacher's reaction was just over the top. She actually yelled at her, "No, no, no, that is Miss R's chair, little missy," and I was gobsmacked. But then second-guessed myself and told myself I was being overprotective, etc. I should have listened to my gut. Miss R was caught pulling a neurotypical student down the hallway by his leg while he was laying on his stomach, and then she dropped his backpack on top of him. She was arrested for this and was still able to return to work with the addition of cameras in her classroom. While out on bond a few months later, she was caught abusing one of the autistic kids in her class multiple times, allegedly smacking him on at least one occasion with her flip-flop. After the second incident, our local newspaper shared an article that they had written about this teacher many years earlier when she was 12 and had murdered a 14-year-old classmate by stabbing her in the heart. Oh my God. That is wild. Holy crap. There's a reply from Mindless Fall 5406. Bro, that escalated quickly. Another reply here from Niwini. That went from 0 to 100 in half a fucking line. Yeah, oh my God. This treatment of people in general like that. Like I don't know, man. I feel like I used to have teachers in elementary school where kids would just do the most innocent stuff, and then they would just have the biggest overreactions for literally no reason. Like for what purpose are you freaking out? Like, who cares? This tells you there's something else going on in these people's lives. Like, why are you getting mad at kids? Like, okay, this isn't necessarily like a specific story, but I remember when I was in elementary school, and when I had first moved cities when I was I must have been in grade 7. And there was the teacher who was teaching in the classroom across from mine. She would always be yelling at like the neurotypical kids. Like she'd be like as if they were supposed to behave as if they did not have neurotypical or neurotypical disabilities. You know what I'm saying? I don't even really want to call it disability, but you know what I'm saying? Like she would yell at these kids. Like she would there's this one kid who he had a bad home life, and he was clearly, you know, on the spectrum. Like he had very difficult times socializing, and there was just, you know, there was that sort of gap. You could tell that there was that, you know, this kid was dealing with a lot of issues, and she would just like yell at him constantly, so much so that he would just like have tantrums and like smack his head against lockers and stuff. And I'm like, you're literally causing this. You're making this so much worse. And like he had a bad home life too. So not only were his parents like really crappy people, and he would get treated like terribly at home, but then he would come to school and his like grade 6 or grade 5 teacher would yell at him for, you know, like having a like sensory overload or something like that, and having to go out in the hallway. And she's like, you have to behave yourself. Like I remember seeing this, and I'm like, bro, give this kid a fucking break, man. Like it was whack, man. It was so whack. Like this story here though was wild. Holy crap. I was skimming through the stories, reading them before like I started recording, and I thought it said something about how she had abused like a non-neurotypical student before, but no, she like murdered some kid when she was young. Like that's psycho. That is psycho. So this next one comes from Adam_bomb_bullets. When I was about 15, my dad was working in a different state with a friend of his for some extra income. I remember one night I woke up out of a dead sleep, and everything in my body was telling me, call your dad now. So I did, even though it was like 2 a.m. He didn't answer. I put my phone down and was slowly starting to wake up, and tried to convince myself he was probably asleep and I was just being weird, but the feeling wouldn't go away. Something that I couldn't explain was begging me to keep trying, so I did. By the 5th time, my stomach was so tied up in knots I was going to puke. But there he was, and picked up, and his first words out of his mouth were, Christ, honey, can you hear me? I said yes, and I told him I was worried about him and asked him if he was okay, and he said, no, not really, but I will call you back. He hung up before I could say another word, and that's when I went and woke up my mom, and I told her I think something happened to my dad. My dad finally called back and told us how he had and his friend gravely misjudged how sharp a turn was, and they had both just climbed back up from a small ravine and were walking all over the place trying to get a signal to call when my call came through. They were pretty banged up, nothing life-threatening, only spent a couple days in the hospital before my dad decided he had enough and took a bus back home. My dad still talks about when he heard the tires leave the road and saw the tops of the trees rushing up towards the windshield. He thought they were dead. Getting to hear my voice on the phone was the most beautiful thing he's ever heard in his life. My mom still doesn't understand how I knew to call him, and neither do I. Fortunately, I've never had another experience like that again, and I don't really want to, if I'm being honest. I tell my mom that whatever it was that woke me up, I hope it picks up someone else. I hope it picks somebody else next time. Man, some of these stories, man, they really give you the impression that, okay, this is just my pet theory, all right? But I believe that the universe is inherently interconnected on every fundamental level, right? And like in a sense that is true, right? Like, you know, everything is made up of atoms, right? And I don't really know, like, I don't know too much about like string theory, but let's say quarks and stuff. Like everything is inherently made up of the exact same things. So whether it's living or non-living, we are all made up of the same sort of fundamental particles. And I think that this sort of has a manifestation in ways that are metaphysical. So things that you can't necessarily explain or have a scientific explanation for, they happen in a like, for example, right now we can't really describe how consciousness works. You know, we don't have a accurate way of being able to like replicate consciousness or really understand where it comes from or what actually consciousness is. I think this is along the same sort of lines, is these feelings that we get and these intuitions that we have are related and inherently fundamentally related to our connection with each other and our consciousness in the universe, and are beyond our scope and ability to be able to describe or be able to pinpoint with a sort of cross-check scientific accuracy, if that makes any sense. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a interconnectedness that provides us with a sort of spidey sense in a way. You know what I mean? Like a sixth sense that we can tune into a certain frequency or vibration of life that allows us to be aware of things that we otherwise wouldn't necessarily normally be aware of. And I think that's when things happen. You know what I mean? That's when I feel like I've had things like that happen in my life, where I feel like that I need to call my parents, or even just even small things. Like, for example, I called a buddy of mine last night that I haven't seen for a couple weeks, and he lives back home where I'm from, and I just had a feeling that I wanted to call him and needed to talk to him, needed to speak to him, and we had a great conversation, and he was telling me I've been thinking about you lately, and it's great to hear your voice. He's like, I miss hearing your voice, and I just really want, and even just, that might sound insignificant, but it's those moments, it's those little moments of recognition that we're like, I need to do this, I need to act on this, I need to do something about this, and it's at those moments I think that we can tune into a different sort of frequency and harmonize with different intuitions that we have, and different connections. I'm just rambling at this point, but you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm trying to say. Anyways, next one comes from Thevic115. My friend had a boyfriend who just gave me bad vibes when we talked on the phone. I couldn't really put my finger on it, but something about him rubbed me the wrong way. Then about a year into the relationship, he says we can't see each other. After she had asked me to come hang out with her and her friends, I told her I didn't feel comfortable meeting him, so I never did. He ended up murdering her. What the fuck? Seriously, what? Oh my God. Are there more murderers out there than I think? You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I feel like... What? Murder... Bruh. Okay. I'm sure some of you guys have seen the YouTube JSC Psychology. That was the guy who makes great videos. Shout out to JSC Psychology on YouTube, but he's made that video that went viral. What is it? How to pretend to be crazy. It was about that kid Nicholas Cruz who was responsible for that school shooting a while ago. And anyways, but he made a video about how there was he's got a lot of great videos, but there was this one video of a dad who just nonchalantly shows the police around his house and is giving them information and stuff. Literally, he looks like a normal dad, like a normal dad you'd see at a kid's baseball game or something. He's just, he's casually walking around the house, telling the police things. He literally, I don't even know, an hour or 2 hours before had, murdered his wife and kids. What the fuck? Oh my God. This is the type of stuff that just is are there more murderers out there than I think? Something, what the heck, man? Why are there so many murderers? Crazy murderers. Why? What is going on? This is just whack, man. This is so whack. Don't murder your spouses, guys. This is why am I having to say this? Seek help, friends. Holy fuck. Somebody lost their friend to some whack job. What the hell? All right, moving on. The original H1H. Is that supposed to be reference to something? I feel like it is. I was visiting my family in California, LA area, when I was walking home from a newly opened thrift store near my grandparents' house. At the time, I was with my older sister, who a week prior or two had my second nephew. I started to get the feeling that at some point we were going to be hit by something. I wasn't exactly sure what, but I had the feeling. I kept pushing it off, and around that area, especially at that time, there may have been maybe 5 cars going down the road, both ways on the street. We were about to round a corner to get back on the street by my grandparents when I felt I honestly needed to puke from how bad of a feeling I got. I ended up pushing my sister and my nephews away towards the wall of the house on the corner, and almost immediately I got clipped by a car that had gotten T-boned while speeding. Luckily, my nephews and sister were all right, but I needed to have surgery on my leg and a portion of my hip. That is wild. That's wild. This, man, see, this stuff does, I feel like you just can't explain that stuff with coincidence. Like, there's just no way. Like those gut feelings, man. And you know what's also interesting? As I was reading a lot of these stories, I noticed a sort of common theme with people wanting to puke, with people having a tied up, twisted stomach, whether it was about a spouse dying, whether they felt somebody, whether they felt suspicious over a certain significant other somebody had, whether it was about the car accident, just that twisted feeling in your stomach, that knot, and then the sensation of wanting to puke. As I've been reading through the stories, that's like a common theme that I've been noticing. We are very mysterious beings, folks. I think there's things that we cannot discount about our ability to be, there's things that we cannot discount about our sentient and conscious awareness of the universe and of each other. There are very interesting, special phenomenon that happen that just don't seem to be quite adequately explained by coincidence, Alrighty, so let's see if we can read maybe... This one is interesting. So this one comes from user Frantic Moose. In undergrad, my sister and I lived in a house my parents bought, and we had roommates. My sister had gotten a new guy that was moving in after the summer holidays. I met him the day he moved in. I was upstairs, met him, shook his hand, went down to the basement suite, called my mom and told her there is no way I would have let that guy move in. She asked me why, and I just said I had a bad feeling about him. He was in the house 2 months before we evicted him for many reasons. Police had to get involved. It was messy. Fast forward to a few months, and we got back from Christmas holidays, and the house had been completely trashed. We told the cops right away that we thought it was him. They said they knew him well. The insurance claim was $160,000. We lived in a hotel for 3 months while they rebuilt the house. The police genuinely thought he tried to kill us. He ended up confessing when he was in treatment, but got off due to temporary insanity caused by methamphetamines. Wild. This brings up and reminds me a little bit of a story. I'm gonna, as a very common thing on Reddit to do, I'm not gonna reveal any names or how this person is related to me. Let's just say that they are a person that I know. They are a person that I know, and so this person that I know lives in a house with roommates, and they are all female people that I know. I'm trying really hard to make sure I'm not like exposing anyone too hard, and I don't want to be, I'm not trying to have doxing anybody. Let's see. So this group of women that I know who are living in this house together, they had an empty room for a semester or something that they needed somebody to rent out. And so it was hard to find people to rent at the time. And so they just settled on this one guy. And it was just, there was something a little bit just off about this dude. And just, he had weird behaviors. Like, he would just go down to the living room area in a house all of girls, like shirtless and wearing just not appealing clothing, and ask them weird questions and stuff. And it's just, they got a bad vibe from him. Thanks to say he only lived in that house for, I don't know, maybe like half a year. But they got some very weird vibes from him, and I'm pretty sure there was some weird information to be known about him. He would like, oh man, this is exposing, but I can't imagine as long as I'm not exposing anyone specifically, but he would like leave his bedroom door open and like have I don't know how you would describe it. Like I'm just gonna say it. He would have like sexual lubricant, like lube, a bottle of lube, just like sitting out, and leave his bedroom door like wide, like weird. Normal people don't do that sort of stuff. Like it's just odd. Like just very very strange. Be very careful, my friends, about who you. If you have a gut feeling about somebody, just go with it, man. It's just I don't know, just weird. Very weird. Anyways, we are coming to the end of the program, my friends. There was a couple more stories I was hoping to read, but I just kind of ranted for a little bit more of this one. But anyways, to wrap up the show, I want to thank every single person who's listening to the show. The audience is growing every single week. I appreciate every single one of you that tunes into the show every week and listens to me talk about random things for like 20 minutes to half an hour. I am very, very appreciative of anybody who is looking to take out time of their day to do that and read some of the stories of our beautiful friends on Reddit and be able to hear some of their experiences and their stories. So without further ado, thank you all so much for tuning into the Reddit Asks Us podcast. If you are watching on YouTube, make sure to like, make sure to comment, and also subscribe. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever else you get your podcast, maybe Pandora, please leave us a rating and also leave us a review. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Reddit Asks Us podcast, where we will be posting new clips every week. I'm your host, Luke Dick. Thank you so much for tuning into the show, and I will see you next week. Peace out.